We are here, we are present, and we are ready to go. Greetings, y'all. It is Tanaya TP, the perspective, and I'm here today to talk about breaking generational curses and really just sharing my experience with the heaviness. And I have my handy dandy laptop here with me today because I got some notes of things that I want to make sure that I touch on. And before we get started, I would like to welcome you here. If you are returning, great. If this is your first time here, great. I'm so glad that you found me. That is very divine. If this does happen to be your first time and you aren't returning, then I want you to know that this is a safe space for healing and love and self discovery, most especially. I tell my stories and I share my stories so that I can, in hopes, with the best intentions of getting you to take this information internal, take it inside yourself and heal those patterns, all right? And see yourself because I am but a mirror, I'm but a reflection of this divinity here. So when I talk about generational curses and generational cycles and things that we are breaking, is really one, the first thing to remember is that like we don't pick up all of this debris by ourselves, right? Since there is no new water on the planet and we are born in sacks of waters called amniotic fluid, right? There's going to be some things that transfer through the water. There's going to be some memories that transfer through the water. There's going to be some things that are sent through the DNA through the water, and we get the opportunity to heal them because our ancestors may not have had the time, they may not have had the circumstances, they may not have had the information. Like, there's so many things that we now have access to that we are born to do it. That was something that came through my meditation and my yoga movement today, is that I was born I was born exactly for this. I was born to do exactly what I'm doing. I was born with all the resources that I need, and it's all inside of me. And it's been there. Sometimes the things that we are here to transmute aren't exactly ours, but they come from our ancestors. And what an honor it is that they gave us something to heal for the whole bloodline, for our descendants and those that come after us. It can end here, and that's a part of these generational cycles that we are breaking. It's not our direct wounds, it's not the things that are a consequence or a blessing that are directly stemming from us and what we create in our reality, but sometimes those are generational curses that we are breaking too, right? It's like making sure that it ends here so that it doesn't pass down. Now, when we talk about generational curses, the cycles, I don't want to keep calling it a curse because it's not a curse, it is a blessing. How you view it, how your perspective on it just shapes everything. And yeah, I truly am honored. I truly am honored. I think that there's just programming that calls it a curse, and that's why it's in my head like that. But cycles, breaking the generational cycles. When we speak of generations, obviously we're talking about what comes from the people before us, and the most direct experience that we have is the ones with our parents. So I have I must say I have two parents. Yeah. Jeez Louise. There are things that we pick up from both of our parents, our mothers and our fathers. And through that, we get to see it based on who raised us or even who wasn't there and how that leaves an imprint on us too. So I have a coochie talk called The Mother Wound that you should definitely go watch because that's all about transmuting the wound that comes from our mother and healing through that and seeing how that affects us. So I'll link that in this video. Please go watch it. It is very insightful, very healing, and very much made out of love. So softly touching on the information that's inside of that video, I discuss how I'm working through my trauma of my mother being on drugs when I was younger, her being absent and all of that. And then, what I carry with me through that and how I transmuted that. But I was breastfed, and then 2 years after, which is the story that I got, I was only living with my father. And then that manifested as, a whole nother wound. So I don't wind up having to heal through a mother wound and a father wound. What a blessing. What a freaking blessing. And I think that the main lesson in that is like putting people on a pedestal or allowing people to hurt us or allowing people to stay in our lives and have such a big say in how we operate just because they are our parents. And yeah, healing that, it's been beautiful. It's been really, really beautiful because with that father one being present, it created a strange dynamic within me where it's like this is the person that has supported me most in my life. And then it's also somebody who has been a big bully to me in my life. But that's also how I'm internalizing it. Both people who hurt you, people who love you, whatever it is, they're still teaching you a lesson. Like you can view your tormentors, not that I'm calling him a tormentor, but you can view your tormentors as your teacher. And then imagine the lessons that are able to really be digested once you view it from that standpoint, once you view it from somebody is just trying to teach you something. The shift from supporter to bully happened because my lifestyle shifted into something that he no longer wanted to, shifted to something that he didn't agree with, right? So I was very much a scholar in my younger years, very much obedient, did well in school, got the job. I was working like 3 jobs while I was in college, got my degree, all of that stuff. And then I just started to have this awakening around 2019, 2020, around that time, where I'm like, I don't think that what I'm doing is mattering to me. Like, it's not a purposeful thing to me. It's purposeful because outside of myself, other people are saying, yay, this is good, that's a great achievement. And but it's like I learned how to do a headstand after being afraid to be upside down for a large part of my life. I got on roller coasters. I did this. I read 10 books. Like, it's like these are accomplishments that matter to me, that to the outside world, which I'm viewing as like my father's perception, for real, they don't matter. And I had to learn to break the cycle of needing the achievements to be celebrated by people who don't see my purpose, when I'm the one who really sees my purpose, when I'm the one who got the call for my purpose. On that purpose call, it was a one-on-one. It wasn't a three-way. It wasn't a four-way. It wasn't a seven-way. It wasn't a people outside of myself listening in on a conversation and really understanding the depth of what I am here to do way. There was that one. But I think that I place so much emphasis on the relationship that I have with my father, because growing up, since he was like, a man, first of all, my father is like in his 70s and I'm 26. So you get to see the generation that he came from and how hard they can be, one. And then two, like how set in stone their ideals are. Like they don't leave much room for growth. And I won't put that on the whole generation, but generally that is the case with the elders from that time. He was born in the 50s. That's what I was saying. He was widely admired by people just because he was a man raising a daughter. And in the city, I'm from Philadelphia, you don't really see that often. A lot of times in these inner cities beyond Philadelphia, because of what's happened governmentally and societally, there hasn't been a lot of men in the household, for real. So they see a man raising a daughter without the woman present, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is like the best thing ever. So I had latched on to some of that too, like feeling like it had to be the best thing ever because he chose me, because he decided to be there with me and stick it out with me. And that is an amazing thing. But behind closed doors, outside of what it looks like in the public, I did experience getting yelled at a lot, being belittled a lot, feeling like I achieved so much, but then feeling like it wasn't enough. And that some of that is still carried with me. Like, and then it's troublesome to think about because everybody always applauds him for being such a great father. And then I have a different experience with somebody who is emotionally detached, and I am an extremely emotional person. So I actually want to go deeper into that too, because I'm going to do a separate video on my 12th house stellium that happens to be in Taurus. So if you're an astrologer, you know anything about astrology, you can already know that video is about to be very juicy, yummy, and delicious. Growing up with my father and breaking these generational cycles, like what I did learn from him is that it's okay not to show up in certain spaces. Like when I was younger, I didn't really enjoy being with my family. It was I just always felt something was off. And if you're watching this, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with you. I'm saying that something didn't resonate with my spirit personally, with what I was supposed to be doing personally, with what I felt, the spaces that I felt comfortable being in personally. I feel like when I didn't show up to spaces, they would always be like, oh, why you let her do this and why you let her do that? And he was like, well, she said no. She said she didn't want to come. So who am I to control her and make her come somewhere she don't want to be in? And mind you, he has experiences of leaving me with certain family members, and then I'm calling him at 2 o'clock in the morning saying that I want to come home, and he would come get me. It's like, to avoid any of those experiences, he kind of knew like there's a reason why you want to come home, and there's a reason why you don't feel comfortable. So I'm not going to keep putting you in uncomfortable spaces. You have a right to say no, and I'm going to honor. Big ups to him for understanding that. And I feel like that came from my dad's also a water sign. Maybe his own experiences that I don't know of being put in spaces where his parents made him feel forced to be there. And he's like, I'm not going to do that to my child. Those boundaries were set in early of like, I don't have to show up and be in spaces that I don't desire to be in, especially if I'm uncomfortable there. And the discomfort isn't stemming from like, oh, this is helping me grow type of thing. It was stemming from, what the F am I doing here? And I want to be with my dad. And a lot of him just trusting me to make my own decisions, but it could have came from his maybe lacking mindset of like, oh, who am I to tell her this? Or why do I deserve to tell her this when I don't have the experience myself? So after elementary school, I picked all of my schools, my middle school, my high school, my college. And I know that in some other families, they may have a lot of input into those type of decisions. But with me, it was like, I just told him what I wanted to do, and he was behind me supporting it because, again, that was in alignment with what he wanted to see from my life. Once that switch, that support, that backing me up no matter what, that stopped. Up until college, because I even was surprised when he supported me going to Japan, right? I wanted to do a study abroad in school, and I don't know, I guess because it had something to do with college, but he was right behind me, making sure that I had the money to do it, the money to go, applying for the visa. Like, he made sure I had all the documents there. Like, it was very supportive. It was very supportive. So I can look back on those moments and know that even the support was a generational cycle that was being broken, because he really showed up and made sure that whatever I wanted to do, as long as it was in alignment with what he wanted, it got done. It got done and I got to experience that. So now in this life, when I keep talking about what switched, it's like I'm going against the grain, right? I'm not doing the things where my security is tied to a 401k and a social security, and I have a job that I've been working for 32 years and it gains me this consistent income. No, I'm more so on God's plan and doing what God told me and living off of that, right? Living off my faith as my currency. And that feels very insecure. That feels very unstable to him. So it's like, I'm not going to support that until you're doing what I want. I'm traveling, I'm learning about language and culture and food. I am exploring these different parts of myself and getting deeper and connecting with nature and living and loving people. Like, I'm not so tied to this idea that my blood family is my only family. I have a universal family. I have people that love me all over the world, even if I haven't met them yet. But that's been proven true. Whenever I go travel, I have family. I got a place to stay. I got food on the table. You know what I'm saying? And that's not to say that I just be hopping around without no money all the time. But even if I did, then that's just my story. That's definitely not always the case. And then even in that support, right, I feel very connected to my father's mother, like my grandmother. Eula, thank you so much for your support. I always feel you. I feel your love. I feel your tenderness. I feel your support. And I feel like a lot of what my dad is able to give to me, it came from her. I can definitely feel that. And definitely came from her. And then what? My grandfather, her husband, I know that he was connected to the land. He was connected to the earth. I know that he had a grapevine, and when he passed away, that grapevine passed away right with him. People tried to revive it, and it was like, no, Leroy ain't here. I ain't here. And my dad has that too. Like, I know he had a little green thumb, but he be out here growing things and keeping things alive. And even I gave him a plant that was starting to die and to rot and all of that, and he still has a piece of it. Even if he don't have the full tree, it was a full freaking tree, and I trusted him with it. But even if he don't have the full tree, he has a piece of it. He's keeping that piece alive, and that's a blessing. When I moved to Florida, I had connected with this artist, and she used to paint the waters, or she paints the water, she paints the springs, and she taught me how to swim in the springs and taught me that like I can have comfort in that, because very young I started to have fears of water. My dad told me a story one time about how he went fishing and he fell out of the boat into the water and almost drowned. And like that was a person that I really loved so much. So I kind of was like, water is bad and scary, because it almost took my dad away. And I wasn't even, I don't even know if I was even alive, yet when that had happened to him. But I took that and buried it so personally. I feel like I'm gonna make sure that I'm heard, so I'm gonna just hold it because there's something in the background that's like distracting. $13,500. Maybe that's the new investment that I'm getting. Thank you. I'll just take that because it's definitely coming loud in it for a reason. And it's passing. It's coming and it's passing, just like the waves do. Okay, so like I was saying, learning to swim. So when I moved to Florida, connected with that artist, I got so inspired by her that she would start taking, and she was inspired by me too. I'll definitely say that it's not just her inspiration; it's my inspiration, and we connected based off of inspiration and love, and genuine care and what is it called, like interest in one another. That's how we connected. I mean, beyond the main reason. Regardless, the main reason was care, and the main reason was her mother, and it was a very beautiful relationship to me that also broke some generational curses, cycles, broke some cycles. So yeah, she would take me to the springs that she was so inspired by, and I love the water. It was so pretty. If you don't know, Florida has like so many freaking springs that are so beautiful and so blue, and when you go underneath them, there's either caves or just depth, and it's bright. Like that was my first time experiencing that too. So anyway, watching her swim kind of showed me that water is comfortable, water is loving, water is inspirational, water is creative. That is how we are all carried. Like I got very deep into the water, and she would just like show me. So she put me in a wetsuit one time, and the wetsuit provided some buoyancy, and that took away some fear from me. Like, oh, I'm like, wow, you really can float in water. Water doesn't just drown you automatically. The body floats. The body floats. So I started to develop trust within water instead of fear with it. And yeah, just that, breaking a generational cycle of the fear of water. I think that anybody who has lived in this planet has kind of heard that Black people don't swim. And when you grow up in the inner city without access to water and rivers and oceans and stuff, and all you have is the pool, it's not as, likely that you know how to swim for versus if you grew up in like the river was your backyard, or you grew up in the ocean was your backyard. And then the last thing that I have on this list is talking about Christianity and breaking the generational cycles of that. So when I was growing up, I had a lot of people try to force me into Christianity, force me into the church. My freaking uncle used to be like, "Oh, play your trumpet in the church," because I used to play the trumpet, and I'm like, "Bro, you're trying to use any freaking tactic that you can to get me to be in this church more, and y'all act like I'm demonic." It even got to a point where my father was like, "You're gonna burn in a pew if you ever did it," because I expressed how much I didn't like being there, and I think that that was something in my spirit that was just like, these people beat this belief into us. You had people, colonizers, beat this belief, beat this knowledge, beat this whole idea of a savior outside of yourself, and you named him Jesus and he was white and stuff like that. It's just like, why take away our African, our ancient African spirituality practices? And it's even been so deep that to other countries where if it wasn't Christianity, it was Catholicism. So they started to use the saints in order to still practice the veneration of the Orishas and the veneration of the other deities that were so present for and with us. And take back the power by knowing that you are your savior, like you are the person, you are the God. And the more that we remember that, we break these cycles. Like God is inside of you, but they try to make it seem like God is only outside of you and that God is something to fear. And the fact that we are taught that God is something to fear makes us fear tapping into ourselves, makes us fear, getting deeper within our body and feeling everything and raw dogging life, right? Not using alcohol and other substances to get away from the truth, to get away from God. Because sometimes you might hear some stuff you think that's crazy, and I think that if you are interested in my view on mental health and Western psychology and things like that, then I'll definitely check out that video too, because that is on my page. I'll link that as well, the mental health perspectives video, because I talk more about just how I think that we've been lied to about what certain diseases are and mental health disorders and things like that. Our families probably, or our elders probably didn't have depression because they didn't have the food that we had. Way that it's like it takes you away from critical thinking. That is oppression. Like I said, African spirituality, ancestor veneration, all these ways of honoring who came before us, that is kind of taken away. Like the Bible demonizes idols and all that stuff, and I don't think that you should have idols outside of yourself anyway. But it's like it's even, oh, you're burning incense for other people and not me, and it's like, bro. Overall, I talked about everything that I wanted to talk about when it comes to my experience of breaking the generational curses and the things that have been put in our body. I do like to recommend books in my videos. So I'm currently reading My Grandmother's Hands, which talks a lot about racialized trauma that gets stored in the body. There's another one, The Body Keeps Score, that is on my reading list. I think is very important. And then there's a book about trees that I read that really changed my life. It was by Robin something, but I'm going to find that out and I'm going to link that too. I don't know, but she was talking a lot about her ancestors, and I believe that they were Native Americans, and just the connection that we have to the land, the connection that we have to nature, the connection that we truly have to ourselves and our families beyond this book that is a Bible, beyond this. Oh, while I'm talking about the Bible, while I'm on there, I just want y'all to know, or just put this out there, that they're still producing books that are called the Daily Bread. When the origin of the daily bread comes from, like, slaves being on the field working, and they're like, if they wanted a break or if they wanted some good bread, then the pastor would take them out of the field, right? Give them a break so that they could listen to the word of God, listen to Jesus, listen to how white people are supreme and all that, which it just really mutilated the mind and the connection that we had to ourselves. I'll say that. Yeah, just be mindful. Just look. If you really just look, you'll really see. If you just look, you'll see. If you have taken the task of breaking the cycles for your family, breaking the cycles for yourself first and foremost, then I just send you love, I send you ease, I send you comfort, and I want you to know that you were called for a reason. You have everything that you need to do this. Your ancestors is behind you. The universe is conspiring to help you and support you, and your descendants will thank you far beyond what you can even hear and see now. And I love you. Thank you for listening. Peace.